Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another one of our discipline dialogue sessions. My name is Dr. Mark Schneider. I am the AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support with Ivy Tech Community College. It's a long title that basically means I coordinate the dual credit programming on the academic side of the house for our dual credit courses, offering around 350 dual credit courses, several thousand sections of those courses all across the state of Indiana, along with about 3,200 dual credit instructors. Today, we'll have a few joining us, and of course, we have this recorded as well for those who are unable to join us today to watch on YouTube at a later time. Before we get started, I want to introduce our academic advisory committee member who is joining us, a member of the Ivy Tech faculty. Ms. Mack, if you would take a second and introduce yourself to the group, and then we'll kind of jump in with some of our questions and
Sure.
comments.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. My name is Shantae Mack, and I am the Accounting, Boat, and CINS chair on the Lake County campus, which is in Northwest Indiana. And I've been with the college off and on for the greater part of this decade. Started with Ivy Tech back in 2006. And so just been off and on as an adjunct, now serve as full-time faculty and a program chair. So just happy to be on the committee, happy to help wherever I can.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us today. Since we only have one dual credit instructor on here, John, I will politely call you out and ask you where you're from in the state, what high school, and what program you teach in.
Um, like I said, my name is John Dawson. I teach at McKinsey Center for Innovation and Technology in the Lawrence Township. So we're kind of a unique situation where we have only Lawrence Central and Lawrence North students come to us on our campus. So it's a little bit different. So I do the accounting, fundamentals, payroll, and income tax, as well as the managerial.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I do think, with some of those accounting classes and with the new high school graduation requirements, there's a lot of opportunities around for the accounting program to kind of lean into some of the work-based learning opportunities. But we'll discuss that a little bit later on. For those who are watching the recording right now, we are in the middle, we being Ivy Tech are in the middle, or actually probably like the very beginning. It's like the first inning of our reaffirmation or reaccreditation cycle with NACEP for our longtime dual credit instructors, those who've been with us, longer than 5 years. You probably remember what the Ivy Tech dual credit world looked like pre-NACEP and now what it looks like today. When we went through that process originally 5 years ago, really kind of professionalized a lot of different loose ends of our dual credit programming all across the state of Indiana. Well, now it's time to go through the reaccreditation or reaffirmation of that accreditation. And it's a long explanation basically to say we're going to be looking for great examples to submit next year. So if you have awesome assignments, if you're really proud of your syllabus, if you'd like to sit in on a peer review session with some peer reviewers from across the country, we'd be happy to include you in any and all forms that you'd like to volunteer for. And a little bit later, I'll put my name and email in the chat. Anyone who is interested with it, I'll also put it in the comments on our YouTube page. Just feel free to reach out to me, and we'll be happy to talk to you about what we are doing and what we'd like to show off, because Ivy Tech is the largest dual credit program in the country by about a factor of 3. And so there are a lot of eyes on us, and we have lots of best examples that we'd like to show off. So keep that in mind as we go through the next year or so. Now, one thing for our dual credit instructors that they're, at least for myself too, as a former high school teacher, I taught 10 years in the high school classroom. When I joined Ivy Tech 7 years ago, I was very surprised to find out that faculty and program chairs really drive our curriculum. They push our course objectives. They create certificates, technical certificates, new courses. All of that is largely driven by faculty. There is an administrative part to it, but all the votes come from faculty members. That's not how K-12 works. But I say all of that because the curriculum committees meet at least once a year. Sometimes they meet 2 or 3 times a year, maybe once each semester. And I wanted to ask Ms. Mack if there was any updates from the curriculum committee here over the last, either in the fall when they met or over the last year, with any changes that would maybe be impacting dual credit classes in the subsequent years. And if there have been no voted changes or discussions and everything's kind of status quo for the time being, that is also welcome too, because in education, usually the only thing that's constant is change. So if we can avoid that, that's always welcome news too.
So yes, I have quite a few changes. So for our vote program, which was, yeah, I never remember all of it. Business operations, applications and technology.
You passed the test.
I passed it. And so we're changing that. We're changing that. So with the fall of 25, beginning of fall of 25, the new name or the new tagline will be OTEC, which is Office Administration and Technology. And so we are going through the committee right now. We're going through and voting on each of the coursework to make sure that we, change the names properly. We've changed some of the sequencing to kind of match. For example, we had one Excel course, and then we have an advanced Excel course. So we kind of put the numbering of them so that they become in sequence, so that you can see that there's one to move to the next. So that would be out of our BOAT program, or OTEC, Office Administration and Technology. Will be something new out of there. There have been a couple of redevelopments, which if anyone is teaching 207 right now, which is the Microsoft applications integration, I believe. If you're teaching that now, then in the fall, you should have received new information or a new syllabus, as well as right now. So we've changed and we're using SIMnet. A SIMnet, which is, I think, a McGraw product, if I'm not mistaken. So that course was redeveloped. And so if you are teaching that, I know a few people that I reached out to in my area that were on my list of dual credit instructors to make sure that they had received the updated information, and they had. So just that's one thing that I know has changed. On the accounting side, we have redeveloped a few courses. And so what you will see new, if anyone is running Accounting 118, Financial Concepts, I actually was on that redevelopment committee, or redevelopment team. And so we just finished that off. And so that will launch in spring of 2025. So the new course shell and all of that should come up when IT when IT loads that, that should be new. We also just redeveloped 101, Accounting 101. And so what's exciting about Accounting 101 is a few of us over the last few terms in our face-to-face and traditional courses, we piloted a simulation, which is so there was a project in Accounting 101. So we piloted a simulation which walks through the accounting cycle. It allows these students to make some real world decision makings, where they have to decide on their company name. They got to decide on the company logo, and some other different things. It makes it a more real world versus here's a project, here's a one-line sentence of the transaction. They actually will have invoices to look at. They get emails from they have two partners in the business. And so they get emails from one of the partners regarding some of the information. So it's a simulation that goes through the entire accounting cycle, and it pretty much runs almost the whole length of the class. And so that is one of the things that was put into this new redevelopment. And so that too will be launched in spring of 2025. So if there are, Mark, if you don't mind, if you can put my information in there, if there are any dual credit instructors, and I know we'll be pushing it out, but we just had a professional development that was recorded with this new simulation. And so that can be pushed out as well.
Yeah, just send, just a sidebar real quick. Just send me that information, the link to it, and we can forward it out to everyone
Okay.
in short order. Mhm.
Okay, we'll do. We'll do. And so that was what was exciting about that. The payroll, so accounting 106 and accounting 102 will be redeveloped in the spring term. And so those will be new come fall. Yes, that's all my updates that I have written down.
Okay, that's a lot. That's probably like half of all of them that we've heard over these. I think this is our 19th or 18th
Oh, wow.
dialogue. So um, it's all good though, because we want to make sure our offerings stay relevant, you know, being tied into the workforce and, you know, the needs of the state of Indiana, you know, keeping a class the same, you know, for a long period of time. We don't want it to get stale. We want to make sure it's relevant and useful for our students. So that's all good to know. For anyone who is watching the recording, if you have specific questions that you'd like more information on, reach out to your local program chair, the one that helps, you know, do your syllabi review, your site visit, all of that. That information should be readily available from your program chair. If you haven't heard from him or her yet, you probably will hear about it in short order when your site visits happen in the spring, if this is the first that you're hearing of it right now. So plenty of time to address all of that, and many moving parts too, as different things are being developed. So thank you for that update right there. Another question that we sometimes get are or centers around like students completing a pathway in high school, and then like what is that next step? You know, if students go down the accounting pathway or, you know, any of the other ones, you know, what are some options for them when they get, you know, done with high school? Do, you know, if they want to come to Ivy Tech, or if they want to, you know, transfer to a four-year institution, or anything like that. I don't think there are any 2+2 degrees that we have through CAG, those TSAP programs. I'll have to look. I should have looked at the list beforehand, but I don't think we have any of those explicit agreements, but we often have transfer agreements with various institutions on the program level. But anyways, what are some different options students can utilize to, you know, take their courses and, you know, put them to good use after high school?
So depending upon which courses, again, they're able to take during the high school timeframe, once they transfer or come into Ivy Tech, or even beyond college, I would say from an accounting perspective, there is, especially at Ivy Tech, we have our certain technical certificates. And so we now have a technical certificate in enrolled agent, which is taxation, really is what it is. So there are different programs that you'll be able to. So that one, for both the Microsoft Office, you can certainly get your certification in Microsoft Office programs, or OTEC. I gotta get used to saying it. To get certification in the Microsoft Office, so that which will aid if they're even, when I'm talking to people and I tell them, I said, if you need to have a job during college, an office job, I think is one of the best, because it's often go to work and, you know, you go home, you don't have, you're not necessarily taking work home with you, but to have that Microsoft Office certification, I think helps students excel. And then, you know, if they need to be able to work during college. From an accounting perspective, they have the bookkeeping certificate, and all of those those courses generally will transfer to 4 years, even if it's just as an elective. So depending on what their 4-year degree ends up being, if it's not accounting, usually the accounting courses, what I've seen in my experience, that they will count over as electives. And so I think that's a plus, especially from an accounting perspective. If you like numbers but don't necessarily want to be an accountant, those are some good elective courses, especially if you're a business major or any of those. Those courses definitely help for you to run your business, or, you know, to operate in business and know the multifacetedness of a business. What else was there? There was something else I thought of as I was talking.
It's okay if you lose your
Yeah, I
thoughts.
totally lost my thought.
Mid sentence, you listed a lot of good transfer options there. I think especially, it also kind of depends on, pardon me, where you are in the state and how close you are to some of the other four-year institutions for some of those transfer options. But we do have, the website list all these different options that are available for students if they want to take their credits to another institution. So do check that out. Another thing, one last thing here before we kind of open it up to any Q&A that we might have. We've gotten some questions about common assessments or a common final. If memory serves me right, I think Accounting 101 has a common final, if that is right. And then that's available through Ivy Learn. Anything you want to share about that common final? We always try to encourage to the fullest extent to get those common finals utilized in our dual credit classes. We want our dual credit classes to be as close to a carbon copy of what's being offered on campus. But then also the common assessment allows us to grab a lot of quantitative data to make sure students are learning what our course objectives are. But we can also do all kinds of great things with that data. Our on-campus students and dual credit students, are their grades roughly the same? Are their scores, the tests, or is one even higher than the other? Is there something we could do to balance that out? So anyways, anything you want to share or say about the Accounting 101 final?
And so I'm gonna say that I definitely, and I can go back and look at my notes. So as part of when we were discussing the redevelopment, that was one of the topics, and I don't recall what the outcome was. And I believe we voted to keep it a common assessment. And so I have not fully looked at the assessment that's in the new redevelopment. But that was one of the issues is we did in the curriculum committee actually talk about how will, like, if we change this, how will it affect dual credit students? And just what the outcome of it was is leaving me. But with that, so I just talked previously, or the one that is currently there with that common assessment, is that it's cumulative over the whole time frame. And so just as much as instructors can, that is definitely the final that we want them to be able to use. And I know the conversation that came up with us in our curriculum committee was that we have it timed at 2 hours, but generally in the high school setting, they don't have that time frame to complete that final. And so I know that was part of the conversation of us trying to keep it a common assessment. But how can we do that with our dual credit, if we have it timed at 2 hours? And so I believe some people were going to reach out to some of the dual credit instructors that may be teaching it just to see how they were doing it, so that we can, so that we could know. When I look at the time of my 101 students that take the final now, most of them completed right in under an hour. I mean, but of course you have some of those that, take your full time frame. So if it's a 50-minute course, do I think, students may be able to complete it? I think so. But I know that, again, that was one of the questions that we were asking. And so I don't know if and one of the things that we were looking at was reduce the number of questions maybe, so that it could be completed in that time.
Yeah. Well, that's all good to know. Like I said, if anyone has any questions specifically about the common final, just reach out to your local program chair, faculty liaison. They'll be happy to work with you on that. A couple of things we like to remind our dual credit instructors as benefits for being a dual credit instructor with Ivy Tech. If you've been teaching with us for over a year, you are eligible for 6 free credit hours on campus each semester. That is also applies for your spouse and any dependents, so your children that are attending. So that's 6 credit hours in total, not 6 credit hours per dependent though. So if you have multiple kids attending Ivy Tech, you can apply 6 each semester. That's roughly 2 classes. Most of our classes are 3 credit hours. Thinking of classes, $500 and change. It's roughly a benefit of $1,000 each semester. So that's something that we want to make sure our dual credit instructors utilize if they weren't aware of it. And then also, like, another thing that we have is all of our Microsoft Office products, which has been discussed in length already here: Word, PowerPoint, Excel. The whole suite of Microsoft Office products can be downloaded for free through Ivy Tech, as long as you have an Ivy Tech email going that's active. That subscription, I think when we looked it up, was like $109 a year if you just download it and do it at your house. So this is something that can help cover that. So keep those things in mind as you are as you're a dual credit instructor with the college. Just one or two last things here before we get done. One thing was that we mentioned at the very beginning was high school redesign. One thing that today is December 13th. The new high school graduation requirements were voted upon 2 days ago. So it's very, very, very fresh. And everything has just been finalized. The paint's not even dry with everything that's been going on. But a lot of high schools are going to be leaning heavily into trying to cultivate and develop work-based learning opportunities. At least getting students, I think 75 hours was the threshold to get one of the seals for the high school graduation requirement. I would encourage, as I've said many times already, reach out to your Ivy Tech contacts if you're a dual credit instructor, as you're trying to think about ways that you can, to offer that experience to your students. Of course, I'm here in Columbus, and downtown Columbus has a handful of accountants, that you could tap into. But there's a lot of different, groups, businesses where you could work with their payroll office and other things like that. Even in your own school district, I'm sure that of course there'd be some sort of confidentiality. You have to make sure you're not seeing all the ins and outs of every paycheck or other things like that. But there's an accounting department, paying out bills and everything else like that. There's a group that could be utilized there. So keep that in mind. I am sure as discussions go on, programs that have ideas at the top of their mind whenever they're doing a review with a principal or a superintendent or whatever, they're going to be ones that go to the forefront for dual credit offerings and just relevance because of the new high school graduation requirements. So keep that in mind. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help. John, you're the only person on here. So normally we open this part up for Q&A for the whole group, but it's a Friday afternoon for those watching the recording. And John was our brave soul that joined us. Wanted to ask if you had any questions. If you don't, that's completely fine too. And we'll end with a thank you, but also wanted to make sure you had a chance to ask any questions that you might have or share any comments, concerns, anything like that.
No, just a couple of comments. I mean, I've been a part of dual credit with Ivy Tech, I think this is my 29th year, and I think 28 out of the 29 I have done dual credit in some way. A lot of the time it was with BOAT and now with accounting. So, and I had some accounting 118 at one point, and then credentialing and that sort of thing occurred. So, I will say this: if there's anything that can be done about the credentialing process, which I know through accreditation, that's part of the issue that would really help. I'm also a department chair here at Lawrence Township for Lawrence Central, Lawrence North. So I have about 10 or 11 teachers I oversee. And so we're trying our best to get everything aligned dual credit wise. So anything that can help me with getting teachers credentialed would be wonderful. But I know that that's also a challenge for everyone in the state.
Yeah, and it was something, if anyone watches Secretary Jenner's presentation over the new high school graduation diploma requirements, there are action items. I think there was 6 on there between Q1 and Q2 2025. So things that they want to do over the next 3 to 6 months now that they got the diploma finalized. And one of them was teacher credentialing and dual credit instructor credentialing and how to expand that pool. And, I mean, it was very high level what she was talking about, but, making the transition, the teaching turnaround time for a lot of people who are experts in their field, making that turnaround time instead of it being 12 or 18 months, how might we make that turnaround 3 months or, something much hypothetically shorter. But then also talking about dual credit and our credentialing requirements. There are national organizations, Higher Learning Commission, various factors that go into it, but there's also levels of local autonomy. State law can influence that as well. How might we work on those things to try to, have greater alignment between high school teaching, credentialing standards, and a teacher license and what's needed to teach a course on campus. So that's not a great answer. That's a lot of vagary right there to offer up, but also it's good news in that it's something that's on the minds of a lot of people who want to get stuff done. And I think too, with the upcoming session of the General Assembly after the first of the year, with the elections being done, some of these are things too that could be tackled through state law. So we'll just have to see what bills are proposed, what ideas Secretary General has. I'm sure she wants to probably take a couple of days off now that she just got all of those, that big work done from the last, 2 years. And, but, I'm sure here probably before Christmas break, she'll be tackling a lot of that. So stay tuned with a lot of those
I
things.
appreciate that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So, and thank you for joining us. And thank you for anyone who's watching the recording right now. We always like to end these by thanking all of our dual credit instructors, whether you've been with the college for just a few months or in some cases 28 years, which is amazing right there. That's awesome to hear. Ivy Tech, like I mentioned earlier, is the largest dual credit program in the country. We're probably going to have about 95,000 students this year, maybe a little bit more, that'll take at least one course with us this academic year. The high school seniors that are graduating will probably earn about 10, 11,000 college credentials. So whether that's the Indiana College Core or a certificate or a technical certificate, they're earning something beyond a high school diploma, which is an amazing number. It's the envy of the rest of the country. No other state gets close to what Indiana has to offer. And all of that is based off of our dual credit instructors. If we didn't have dual credit instructors and our great program chairs that help support them, those numbers would be next to nothing. And so a lot of our dual credit instructors, they do this out of the goodness of their heart. Not everyone's stipend who offers a dual credit class. And, there's a lot of extra requirements that go into it, turning in a syllabus, participating in a site visit, doing the professional development modules, all these accreditation requirements that we ask of our dual credit instructors. Almost always it's done out of the goodness of their heart because of the great things that it's going to be affording their students both now and in the future. This last year, I think the number was 111 million or 112 million in tuition dollars were saved by dual credit students. And that's at the Ivy Tech rate. That's not at, the 4-year institution rate. So that number could probably pretty conservatively be doubled and no one would bat an eye. So that'd be almost $250 million in tuition savings. So it's a huge, huge benefit to the state and our students and our communities. And we just want to thank all of our dual credit instructors for that. So with that, I want to thank everyone who joined us. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to myself or your local program chair, and we'll be happy to help you. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day and have a good weekend.